Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. The rain is relentless, the wind howls, and you're soaked to the bone. Every instinct tells you to run, to find shelter, to escape. But what if I told you that sometimes the only way out of the storm is through? I want to talk about something we all face but often resist. Endings of relationships, dreams, seasons of life. They hurt. And our first reaction, we either cling to what's falling apart or we numb ourselves, pretending it doesn't matter. But here's the truth. When we refuse to let something end, we refuse to let something new begin. A friend of mine was in a job that drained her. Every Sunday night, dread crept in like clockwork. She'd vent, she'd cry, but she stayed. Because leaving meant facing the unknown, and the unknown, that felt scarier than the misery she already knew. Sound familiar? We convince ourselves that holding on is strength, but real strength is knowing when to let go. And letting go isn't just a decision, it's a process. A messy, painful, beautiful process. Let it end. A chapter doesn't truly close if we keep our fingers wedged between the pages. The hardest part of moving on is accepting that something is over. And we fight it. We replay conversations, rewrite the past, search for second chances, but clinging to what's already broken won't fix it. Closure isn't something you get, it's something you give yourself. We have this idea that endings are optional, like we can negotiate with reality. We convince ourselves that if we just try a little harder, hold on a little longer, things will magically go back to the way they were. But the truth is that some things, some relationships, some dreams, some seasons of our lives are meant to end. And no matter how tightly we hold on, no matter how much we bargain, there comes a moment when we have to loosen our grip and let go. I had a friend, Jake, who spent years in a relationship that had already ended, emotionally, if not officially. He and his partner had stopped being them a long time ago, but neither of them could bring themselves to say the words out loud. He told me, "If I walk away, it means I failed." And I get that. I do. We tie so much of our worth to what we can hold on to. But staying in something that's already over isn't love and it isn't loyalty. It's fear. And fear is a terrible decision maker. So why do we resist endings so much? Part of it is that we're wired to seek certainty. Studies in psychology show that our brains are more uncomfortable with the unknown than with known pain. That's why people stay in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, places that don't feel like home anymore. Because even if it's miserable, at least it's familiar. The unknown, that feels terrifying. The other part is grief. And I know grief is a heavy word, but endings are a form of loss. And loss, no matter how big or small, demands to be grieved. Whether it's a relationship, a job, a dream that didn't work out, or just an idea of how life was supposed to go, it's still something you hoped for, something you invested in, and when it's over, it hurts. But here's where we get stuck. We think that by refusing to let something end, we can somehow outrun the grief. We think that if we just keep holding on, if we check their social media one more time, if we keep the number saved in our phone, if we leave the door open just a crack, we won't have to feel the full weight of what's gone. But that's not how it works. Avoiding an ending doesn't prevent the pain, it just prolongs it. The moment we accept that something has ended, we give ourselves the gift of starting again. And that's not easy. It's not a light swing moment. It's a series of small, courageous choices. It's choosing every day to stop rewriting the past and start walking toward the future, even when you don't know what that future looks like yet. And let's be clear, acceptance doesn't mean you're happy about the ending. It doesn't mean you don't still wish things had turned out differently. It just means you've stopped fighting reality. And when you stop fighting reality, you free yourself to build something new. Maybe that's where you are right now, standing at the edge of an ending, afraid to take the next step because you don't know where it leads. If that's you, I want you to hear this. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to grieve. But don't let the fear of the unknown keep you stuck in something that's already over. Let it end. Because only when you let it end can you begin again. Let it hurt. I know, this one is brutal. But pain doesn't disappear just because we ignore it. We have to feel it, sit with it, honor it. Research shows that avoiding emotional pain actually makes it last longer. Ever notice how pushing feelings down is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater? Eventually, it explodes back up. So let yourself grieve, cry in your car, take long, sad walks, give your pain a voice. Because when we name our emotions, we take away their power to control us. We don't like pain, we like distractions, solutions, quick fixes. We tell ourselves, if I just keep busy enough, if I don't think about it, if I move on fast enough, I won't have to feel this. But pain doesn't work like that. You can ignore it for a while, bury it under work, under Netflix, under a new relationship, but eventually it catches up to you. And when it does, it demands to be felt. I once talked to a guy who had gone through a really rough breakup. And instead of dealing with the pain, he threw himself into distractions. He traveled, picked up new hobbies, worked longer hours. To the outside world, he was thriving. But 6 months later, when he was alone in his apartment on a random Wednesday night, grief hit him like a freight train. Because that's the thing about emotions. We either feel them now or we feel them later. But either way, we will feel them. The research backs this up. Studies show that suppressing emotions doesn't actually get rid of them. It just stores them in the body. When we refuse to process sadness, it often resurfaces as anxiety, stress, even physical pain. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather face my emotions on my own terms than let them ambush me down the road. But feeling pain isn't the same as drowning in it. There's a difference between processing emotions and becoming them. You are not your heartbreak. You are not your grief. You are not the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Pain is something you experience. It is not your identity. So how do we let ourselves hurt without getting lost in it? First, we name it. Neuroscience tells us that simply labeling an emotion, this is sadness, this is anger, this is grief, reduces its intensity. That's because when we put words to what we're feeling, we shift from emotional overwhelm to emotional awareness. And awareness gives us power. Second, we stop apologizing for our feelings. How many times have you caught yourself saying, I shouldn't feel this way, or I should be over this by now? Listen, there's no timeline for healing. There's no right way to grieve. The only way out is through. And third, we create space for healing. We don't rush it. We don't force it. We let it unfold. Healing isn't about waking up one morning and suddenly feeling fine. It's about waking up and saying, today I will be kind to myself. Today, I will take one step forward, even if that step is just getting out of bed, even if that step is just breathing. I know it's tempting to run from the pain, to numb it, to busy yourself, to pretend you're fine. But when we refuse to let ourselves hurt, we refuse to let ourselves heal. So let it hurt. Let yourself feel it all. Because on the other side of pain is freedom, and you deserve to be free. Let it heal. Healing isn't passive. It's not about waiting for time to do all the work. It's about choosing every day to release bitterness, to stop rehearsing the what ifs. It's about rebuilding yourself, sometimes from the ground up. And healing isn't linear. Some days you'll feel okay, and the next you'll hear a song or catch a familiar scent, and the grief sucker punches you all over again. That's normal. Healing is not the absence of pain. It's learning to carry it differently. We tend to think of healing like a straight road, point A to point B, but in reality, it's more like a winding trail full of detours and unexpected turns. Some days you'll feel like you've made progress, and then out of nowhere, something small, a place, a memory, a date on the calendar will bring it all back. And in that moment, it's easy to think, I haven't healed at all. But that's not true. Healing isn't about never feeling pain again. It's about learning how to live alongside it without letting it control you. A friend of mine, David, went through a really tough divorce. And for the longest time, he thought healing meant getting to a place where he didn't think about it anymore. So every time the memories resurfaced, he felt like he was failing. Why does this still hurt? He'd ask. And I'd remind him, because it mattered. We don't heal by pretending something didn't affect us. We heal by acknowledging that it did and choosing over and over again to move forward anyway. One of the biggest myths about healing is that time alone does the work. Time heals all wounds. We've all heard it. But the truth is, time doesn't heal anything if we're not intentional about how we use it. Time can pass, but if we're still clinging to resentment, if we're still replaying the same painful stories in our heads, we stay stuck. Healing isn't about waiting, it's about participating. And healing takes courage. Because sometimes the hardest part of moving forward is letting go of the version of ourselves that existed before the hurt. We hold on to the past because it feels familiar even when it's painful. But growth asks us to step into the unknown. It asks us to trust that what's ahead can be just as beautiful, even if it's different from what we imagined. So how do we let ourselves heal? We stop obsessing over closure. The truth is, we don't always get the explanations we want. We don't always get an apology. Sometimes, the person who hurt us moves on without ever acknowledging what they did. And we have a choice. Do we stay stuck, waiting for an answer that may never come? Or do we decide that we are worthy of healing, even without it? We stop making pain our home. Pain is meant to be a visitor, not a permanent resident. But sometimes we get so used to our suffering that we build our identity around it. We tell ourselves, I'll always be the person who got left. I'll always be the one who wasn't enough. I'll always be broken. But you are not your past. You are not your worst moment. And healing starts the moment you decide to stop defining yourself by your wounds. And we allow joy back in. This one is tricky. Because when we've been hurt, feeling happy again can almost feel wrong, like a betrayal of our pain. But joy and grief can exist together. You can miss what was and still embrace what is. You can still laugh, still love, still wake up one day and realize the weight isn't as heavy as it used to be. That's not forgetting, that's healing. So let it heal, not all at once, not perfectly, but in small, brave steps. Because you deserve to move forward. You deserve to be whole again. Let it go. Letting go isn't erasing the past, it's making peace with it. It's choosing not to let it define you. We can't change what happened, but we can choose how we carry it forward. And here's the thing. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without reliving. It means holding gratitude for what was without being shackled by it. We talk about letting go like it's a single moment, like it's as easy as flipping a switch, deciding, okay, I'm done carrying this now. But if you've ever had to let go of something or someone, you know it doesn't work like that. Letting go is a practice. It's a series of choices we make, sometimes daily, sometimes minute by minute. And some days we'll get it right. We'll feel light, free, untangled from what hurt us. And then, without warning, we'll hear a song, see a familiar face, or remember something small and insignificant, and suddenly we're back in it. Back in the hurt, back in the longing, back in the past. That doesn't mean we haven't let go. It just means we're still learning how. A woman I know, Rachel, spent years holding on to resentment after a painful betrayal. And I mean years. She told me, if I let this go, it's like saying what they did was okay. And I had to remind her, no, letting go isn't about them. It's about you. It's about deciding that you don't want to spend one more minute of your life being held hostage by something you can't change. That's the hard truth, isn't it? Holding on doesn't punish the past. It just keeps us stuck in it. We think that if we keep replaying the pain, if we keep analyzing what went wrong, we'll eventually find some answer that will make it all make sense. But most of the time, there isn't an answer that makes it make sense. Sometimes people hurt us in ways we'll never understand. Sometimes life doesn't turn out the way we thought it would, and no amount of holding on will rewrite the story. Letting go is an act of self-respect. It's saying, I deserve more than this weight I'm carrying. And it's terrifying because at least the pain is familiar. At least it gives us something to hold on to. But here's the thing about clinging to the past. It keeps both of your hands full. And when your hands are full, you can't reach for anything new. So how do we let go when we don't know how? We remind ourselves that closure isn't something we get. It's something we give ourselves. If you're waiting for an apology, for an explanation, for someone else to make it right, you might be waiting forever. Closure isn't a door someone else gets to close for you. It's a decision you make to stop standing in the doorway. We stop trying to rewrite a past that can't be changed. If we're honest, a lot of our pain doesn't come from what happened, it comes from our refusal to accept it. We keep thinking, if only they had stayed, if only I had done things differently, if only it had worked out. But we can spend our whole lives living in the if-onlys, or we can choose to live in what is. And we allow ourselves to step into the unknown, because that's what makes letting go so scary, right? It's stepping into an open space, unsure of what comes next. But what if that space isn't emptiness? What if it's possibility? What if everything we've been waiting for is on the other side of what we're afraid to release? So let it go, not because it didn't matter, not because it didn't hurt, but because you matter. And you are not meant to spend your life holding on to something that's already gone. Embrace the power of moving on. Moving on isn't about pretending something didn't matter. It's about acknowledging that it did and choosing to keep living anyway. It's about taking everything we've been through, everything we've learned, and using it to build something new. Moving on isn't about getting back to who we used to be. It's about becoming who we're meant to be now. We tend to think of moving on as this clean-cut moment, like one day we'll wake up, stretch our arms, take a deep breath, and suddenly feel completely unbothered by the past. But real life is messier than that. Moving on isn't about erasing the past, it's about integrating it. It's about saying, yes, this happened, yes, it changed me, and yes, I'm still here. A friend of mine, Anna, lost her job in a way that was deeply unfair. She was heartbroken, furious, stuck in the loop of why did this happen? And what did I do wrong? And for months, she stayed there. And who could blame her? Moving on felt impossible, because moving on meant accepting that what was wasn't anymore. It meant stepping into the unknown. And the unknown, it's terrifying. But one day, she asked herself, how much longer do I want this to be the thing that defines me? And that question changed everything. We don't move on because we get answers. We move on because we decide that our future deserves more of our energy than our past. And that's a decision we have to make over and over again. So what does moving on actually look like? It looks like forgiveness. Not for them, but for you. And I know forgiveness can feel impossible, especially when the hurt runs deep, but holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It doesn't heal us. It just keeps us tied to what broke us. Forgiveness doesn't mean what happened was okay. It means we're refusing to let it own us anymore. It looks like rewriting the story we tell ourselves. If we keep telling ourselves, I was abandoned, I was betrayed, I failed, then that's the story we'll live in. But what if we reframed it? I learned. I survived. I am stronger because of this. The way we narrate our own lives shapes the way we experience them. Moving on starts with choosing a narrative that serves us instead of one that keeps us stuck. It looks like allowing ourselves to dream again. When we've been hurt, it's easy to shut down possibility, to tell ourselves, I'll never love like that again. I'll never take that kind of risk again. But healing isn't about building walls. It's about opening doors. Moving on is saying, I'm willing to try again. I'm willing to believe that what's ahead can be beautiful, even if it's different from what I imagined. And it looks like giving ourselves permission to be happy. Sometimes the hardest part of moving on isn't the pain, it's the joy. Because after we've spent so long grieving, happiness can feel unfamiliar. We wonder if it's too soon, if we're allowed to feel good again. But we are. You are. Moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean the past didn't shape you. It means you're choosing to live fully in spite of it. So embrace the power of moving on. Not because it's easy. Not because the past didn't matter. But because you matter. And you are meant for more than what you've left behind. Life will ask us, over and over again, to let go of things we thought we couldn't live without. And every time we'll be faced with a choice. Stay stuck in what was, or step bravely into what can be. Moving on isn't about never looking back. It's about looking back with love, with gratitude, with acceptance, and then turning forward, because that's where life is happening. You are not what you lost. You are not your heartbreak, your failure, your past. You are so much more. You are everything you've survived. You are everything you've learned. And you are everything you still have yet to become. So let it end, let it hurt, let it heal, let it go. And then, when you're ready, even if you don't feel ready, move forward. It's the best part of your story. It's still being written. Good luck, and thank you for being here, for showing up, for choosing courage. I see you, and I'm cheering for you.